It's Council Day. This is the Coast City Editor, Kira McKenna, running you through what happened at Halifax Regional Council on February 9th, 2021. The meeting was shorter than normal. It only started at 1 p.m. and after the meeting at 6 p.m. there was a public hearing about the building at 5853 College Street in the south end of Halifax, slated to be a mixed-use shelter and housing facility operated by the Mi'kmaq Native Friendship Centre. It's one of 3 projects that was awarded federal funding via HRM to set up affordable housing units, and also in the project there will be a 32-bed shelter. Because the plan for this building goes outside of the traditional rules for planning for that area, there has to be a public hearing in order for it to move forward. The Coast wrote about those 3 projects and the funding that was awarded back in November when it was first announced. Today's agenda and regional council meeting talked about the mobility response plan. There was further discussion of the bylaw that sets rules for temporary signs, and a motion to tighten up HRM's grasp around the Blue Mountain Birch Cove Wilderness Lakes area / park, and as well as an added agenda item from Waymason about a request from Shelter Nova Scotia for the land at 2190 Barrington. The meeting started with petitions. So Councillor Cleary presented a petition from the community asking for a report to look at preserving the Sir Sanford Fleming cottage, which is in that park near the Dingle. And Councillor Waymason also brought forward a petition started by Tavon Clark, not Clayton, that's a typo, Tavon Clark, about getting an indoor skate park in Halifax. The Coast wrote about the indoor skate park movement this week, and with an update on where that project is at. And by Waymason presenting the petition to council, it will be added. Now it's officially on staff's radar. There's no super official update on it, but it's more likely to become a possibility in the future now. So the first thing was a presentation about HRM's rules around signs. There are very detailed rules around the signs in Halifax. Even, if a restaurant has a sandwich board up outside, it has applied to and received a license from the city to have that sandwich board. So you've kind of got to turn the screen for this one, but we're talking at the meeting today about how far away from the road these big sort of temporary signs or box signs or anything that's kind of in the right of way of a pedestrian or a car. So 2-man signs are considered, and the discussion was taken pretty seriously. It's a serious discussion, but it sometimes is a bit ironic. Councillor Sean Cleary stated very emphatically, not all box signs are equal. The conversation went on for quite a while. Some councillors were sounding the alarm that the proposed rules around sign location and licensing would hurt small businesses. And so Councillor Tony Mancini had a list of specific amendments that he wanted made based on staff's recommendations. And then Councillor Waymason countered, saying that Mancini's list of specific amendments goes against what staff says, and staff usually has good reasons for why they made the recommendations they did. So I just shared a reminder from a meeting last month that just sort of, staff at HRM are a finite resource, and when they spend lots of time looking at some things, they're not looking at other things. So the conversation went on for a while, and council voted for a second supplementary report about what happened, basically so that what staff are recommending is closer to what businesses are telling councillors that they need. This has already happened once. This item was on the agenda today because the last report wasn't sort of in line with what all the different stakeholders wanted. So staff will now have to come back with more information. And you got a sense from the staff that they would really love this conversation to be resolved, but they need to find a middle ground. So up next was a report from HRM on its mobility response plan, which was born out of the state of emergency and physical distancing and lockdown measures. So that was with the pylons up with signs, and they closed down some streets and a couple other measures that happened. So some of the key takeaways in that report were that permanent measures are more worth the money than quick fixes. Like all the pylons for slow streets ended up being largely moved around by residents and sort of disrespected. So that takeaway taught them that, more permanent measures would be more worth the money, and that more space for quick pickup at businesses was important, and a new need in the city. And also there was people were asking for programming that was put outside of just downtown Halifax, so in all the other areas of HRM. So the program was, put up in the spur of the moment when COVID came, but the program will continue into 2021. And staff want to keep the Slow Streets program and focus on help for businesses in the form of expanded patios and things, and closing down Argyle Street. So it will continue into 2021-22. Then Councillor Pam Lovelace brought forward a motion about the Blue Mountain Birch Cove Lakes Regional Wilderness Park, asking that Halifax Regional Council request a staff report to reaffirm Council's commitment to the park, acknowledge the new Nova Scotia Nature Trust connector as now formally part of the park, and then confirm the correct name of the park to the Blue Mountain Birch Cove Lakes Regional Wilderness Park. Ex-Councillor Richard Zarowski brought forward a similar report in the summer when they were talking about buying that connector, and Halifax actually put up $750,000 towards the purchase of the connector. And you can follow along on that. The coast went to see the connector with the Nova Scotia Nature Trust, and we had a lot of fun. So there's another YouTube video on our channel you can watch to see what it's like inside that park. And here's just a fix of that typo. So just to finish on this, it was approved. Councillor Way Mason brought up the point that he thinks it's important that there's a distinction between a wilderness area and a park, and that the idea of a wilderness area is that no one goes there. It's to protect the wilderness, versus a park, which is to be used by hikers. And he thinks that distinction needs to be made, I think, more clearly. But council approved this. And so it will just get lumped in with the staff report that Zarowski asked for, and ideally line up some of the map distinctions. There was confusion in the maps for the park, and so now there'll be a formal process within HRM to sort of sort that out and firm up like what HRM actually wants to do versus what the province should do, because a lot of the land is also the province's. So that passed. And then council also approved this motion from Councillor Russell, who wanted basically HRM to define a small business for the purpose of taxation. The request, as he put it, asked for a report by September 2021. CAO Jacques Dubé said that the timeline of 2021 would not be able to be met. Quite a few councillors voted against this motion because of that, but the majority voted for it, so it'll happen anyways. And council voted yes on Cleary's motion in response to the petition about looking at preserving the heritage property of the cottage in Sir Sanford Fleming Park. And Way Mason brought forward a notice of motion asking for a staff report about HRM potentially contributing through sale or long-term lease the land at 2190 Barrington Street to Shelter Nova Scotia for an emergency shelter, affordable housing, mixed-use community centre, and to look at initiating a master plan for the block from Cornwallis to Barrington Street between Cunard Tower and Cornwallis, and to consider a contribution of up to $50,000. So this is the land there that Mason was talking about. It's next to Metro Turning Point Center. And basically he said that he's been in talks with Shelter Nova Scotia for quite a while about this land and what to do, and that he wanted them to sort of come with a more formalized proposal, and they said, well, like, we don't have the resources to do that. So this is his way to sort of get the ball rolling on making sure there's vacant land where that dot is, and ideally like building a development there that can encapsulate the services that are already offered by Metro Turning Point, that are very needed in the community, but make sure it all fits in with the Cogswell redevelopment while that's all going on, and that HRM sort of is proactive in making sure that the best possible thing happens with this land, while the city's already working in that area looking at Cogswell. Councillor Paul Russell said that he can't support this shelter downtown because HRM needs a shelter in Sackville. And a couple councillors, including Way Mason, said that it's not necessarily about which part of Halifax needs a shelter more. It's about taking advantage of the work that's already going to be done for the Cogswell area. So council approved that, and now staff will look into it. And that was it for the meeting. It was pretty short and nothing too crazy happened, but it's good to stay informed. Thanks for anyone who gives feedback on this coverage via YouTube. If you find it useful that this video is being narrated, let us know in the comments, and see you after the next meeting. Bye-bye.